Hello and welcome back to Starling Moss. Today we are on another cycling video talking about a race called the UAE Tour, which is of course based in the UAE. Enjoy the video. Let's start with what is the UAE Tour. The UAE Tour, for those who do not know, is in its 7th year. It is a race that mostly involves flat, boring stages to watch, though it does have some of the best and biggest sprints in the world. It is not all about the sprinters though, with climbs like this year's Jebel Hafit that tests the best of the riders. So who has won it before? Well, in 2019, the overall went to Primoz Roglic, who is a multi-Grand Tour winner. In 2020, it was Adam Yates, who is more known as a helper to other riders to win stages like the Tour de France, things like the Tour de France. In 2021 and 2022, it was Tadej Pogacar, who is Adam Yates' superior at his team. But we'll get to Tadej later. In 2023, it was the Vuelta winner Remco Evenepoel. Finally, last year, it was Reinhard van Eetvelt, who was labelled as an up-and-coming rider. Now we know what the race is, let's talk about this year's stages. Before we start that, let me just say that I am not a cycling professional. I have not been watching cycling for that long, and so I probably will get some of these wrong. And also, if I do pronounce a rider's name wrong, I do not mean it, and I'm very sorry, and would love also to maybe know how to pronounce it correctly. Continue with the video. The first stage is mainly flat and will harbour no particular difficulty. The stage consists of 2 intermediate sprints where the sprinters will contest. The stage is all about the final sprint though, which, barring any crashes, will be a big group sprint. The second stage is an intermediate time trial. This stage is 12 kilometers long. It is pan-flat, and so will be completely all for the time trial specialists. Stage 3 is a stage that is crucial for the general classification. It involves 2 intermediate sprints and, of course, the climb of the Jebel Hafis. The winner of this climb will most definitely become your overall general classification, your overall leader of the race. Stage 4, though looking like it has a big climb, is pretty much pan flat and will result in a sprint finish. This stage has 2 intermediate sprints and will be decided by a bunch sprint of sprinters. The 5th stage is another sprint stage. It involves 2 intermediate sprints and harbors no particular difficulty. This, once again, will end in a bunch sprint. It is our 3rd sprint stage. Stage 6 is the 4th and final sprint stage. This stage is between the Abu Dhabi Cycle Club and the Abu Dhabi Breakwater. It involves 2 intermediate sprints and, of course, will finish in a bunch sprint. This is the last opportunity that the sprinters will get. The 7th and final stage ends on a climb. This stage will be the deciding time for RGC. It involves 2 intermediate sprints where the sprinters will be looking to gain more points than ever before. But now let's look a little bit more in detail on the Jebel Hafit. The Jebel Hafit is a climb that is 10.9 kilometers long at an average of 6.7%. It features a tough highest gradient of 10.5% and it climbs over 1,000 meters in height. This climb will test the riders, and we will see most of the battling and decisions being made on the middle part, where the red and black sections are. The first teams we are talking about are teams that I do not expect, in my opinion, to do that well. If you watch the race, you'll probably expect them to be in breakaways or at the back of a peloton. Their riders aren't that known and so are probably not predicted to do as well as most teams will. Now, next up, we will have our teams in more depth. First off is XDS Astana team. This team has 2 Colombian riders in Sergio Herguita and Harold Tejera. Sorry if I mispronounced that. They will probably be their biggest riders, and alongside Aaron Gate will be their main GC contenders. This team will probably not be seen that much, but do look out for them just in case. Next up, we have Tudor Pro Cycling. Tudor Pro Cycling will be led by Marco Stora of Australia. In terms of sprinting, they will be hoping for Arvid de Klein, who showed in last year's races that he could quite possibly win stages at World Tour level. In terms of the rest of their team, I myself do not know many of them, but don't be surprised if they may be able to do something on this tour. Next up, we have my personal favourite team, Team Visma Lisa Bike. This team will be led by Olaf Kooij in terms of sprinting. Then in terms of their overall, they'll be looking at Thomas Galog or Bart Lemon. In last year's tour, Bart Lemon showed in the time trial that he could be able to win. UAE, Team Visma have turned up with 2 sprinters. Of course, they have Olaf, but they also have British hopeful Daniel McClay. Daniel McClay is a little unknown and used to be at a team called Arkea. He has now moved to this team, and we'll have to see what he does this year. Next up, we have Team Picnic Post LL. For Team Picnic, their main sprint train will be led by Fabio Jakobsen. But in terms of the mountains, and general classification, they'll be looking towards Oscar only. In terms of the rest of their team, most of them will be helping out Fabio in terms of the sprinting, and some may be helping out Oscar. But in terms of GC contention, I see only Oscar as a possibility. Next up, we have Team Jaco Alula. Jaco Alula will be led by their sprinter, Dylan Groenewegen. In terms of their team, they won't really have many GC opportunities. Mainly just a group of climbers or sprint train leaders. Pseudo Quickstep have a main sprinter of Tim Merlier, who has won the most stages of anyone on the UAE Tour. In terms of their GC possibilities, they're looking towards Pascal Eckenhorn. I definitely didn't say that right. A lot of their riders will be helping out in terms of generalized climbing. Though, of course, they do have people who will help Tim for sprint wins. Next up, we have Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. This team will be led by Finn Fisher-Black from New Zealand, who is a personal favourite of mine. Their sprints will be led by Sam Welsford, with help from Danny Van Poppel and Ryan Mullen. The rest of their team seem like they're going to be helping out Finn for a possible GC charge. This will probably be his first big test towards a World Tour win. Next up, we have Movistar. Movistar have main riders in Ener Rubio, Pablo Castrillo, and Ivan Romeo, I don't know. Their main sprinter will be Fabio Gaviria, and the rest of their riders will either be helping the three climbers or be helping out Fernando. Next up, we have Lido Trek. They will be led by Giulio Ciccone, who has won the polka dot jersey at the Tour de France. Among him, they will also have Patrick Conrad for the overall. In terms of sprinting, they will focus on Jonathan Milan, who has won multiple Giro d'Italia stages and is rumoured to be going to the Tour de France to possibly win more stages. Next up, we have Israel Premier Tech. Israel Premier Tech are looking towards more of a GC battle, with their main rider of Alexei Lyusenko and their backup of Chris Froome. They may have a sprinting chance, with their best possible sprinter being Jan Geert, who could double up as a GC contender. Now we have Ineos, the only British World Tour team still around, and actually the only British cycling team that still goes internationally. They will be led by Jonathan Castrillo and Carlos Rodriguez, who both could have a very good chance of an overall win. In terms of other things, looking at the time trial on stage 2, they have a very good chance, with British national champion Joshua Tarling, as well as European champion, and Canadian Michael Leonard. Getting near the end of our teams now, we now have EF Education EasyPost. They're the only American team and do have a very good, strong agenda against doping. This team is led by Esteban Chavez and Hugh Carthy. They also have a chance with Sean Quinn. They will definitely be all about the climbing and breakaway side of things, but we'll have to see what they do in the Tour. Next up is Decathlon Étoile Le Mondial team. This team will be led by Bruno Amrai and Felix Gall, the two of them looking very good at the Tour last year. They don't really have much of a sprinting team, with their best possible chance with Rasmus Pedersen. They do have, like Ineos, a chance at the time trial on stage 2, with Stefan Pisica being a recent world champion. Now we move on to Bahrain Victorious. Bahrain Victorious is a team that is going to be mostly focused on Peo Bilbao and Phil Bauhaus. In terms of sprinting, they don't really have a sprinter. In terms of sprinting, they have a sprinter in Philip Bauhaus. I'm really losing it. He will not be their main idea, with Bilbao taking a more senior role. Moving on now to our final 3 teams. We start off with Alpecin Deceuninck, who mainly will be looking at Jasper Philipsen's sprint ambitions. This team is showing that they are not here for a GC challenge, which is what Alpecin Deceuninck mostly do for World Tour races. Now we move on to the reigning champions, Lotto. Last year they were called Lotto Destiny. They will be led by last year's champion Lennart van Eetvelt, though this time it will be a lot harder with a lot tougher competition at this year's tour. In terms of the rest of their team, I don't really see many riders for an opportunity, though they are mostly there to help Lennart. Last but not least, we have UAE Team Emirates, and I've left this team up to last because I believe that they are the team that this year are going to dominate. This is their home tour, and for the riders they have brung, there will be no surprise if they do dominate. Starting off, they have the reigning Tour de France champion and world champion in Tadej Pogacar. He will probably be dominating, and barring injury, there won't be many surprises. Tadej is going to be supported by Michael Bjerg, who will be his domestique and biggest helper. In terms of the mountains, they will also have Jay Vine, who has, on previous occasion, not done too bad at this tour. The team also has a sprinter amongst them, with Juan Sebastian Milano, who doesn't see many sprints or big races because of his team's World Tour status and importance towards the GC battle. But this could be his opportunity to show once again that he still exists and also deserves to go to a World Tour. So now we've seen all the riders. Now it's time to have a couple of predictions and really evaluate the stages and the potential winners. Let's start off with Stage 1. Stage 1, in my opinion, will be dominated, of course, by the sprinters. In terms of looking at sprinters, we'll be looking out for Visma Leasebike with Olaf Kooij, Suda Pro Cycling with Alvid de Kijn, Picnic with where is he saying him? Fabio Jakobsen, Alpecin de Koenig with Jasper Philipsen, who is my odds-on favourite for this stage. Tim Merlier for Suda Quickstep, Sam Welsford of Red Bull Hansgrohe, Dylan Groenewegen of Jeko Alula, Gaviria of Movistar, and Phil Bauhaus of Bahrain Victorious. These are probably your odds-on favourites for this one stage. If I really look at it, in my predictions, I believe that it will be Philipsen, Merlier, and Olaf Kooij. Now, let's look at Stage 2. In terms of Stage 2, I'm looking towards Ineos Grenadiers with Joshua Tarling, or UAE's Team Emirates Tadej Pogacar, who has, in the Tour de France, showed how good he is at his time trial. We could also look at Decathlon UAE Tour with Stefan Bissiger. But in terms of any other riders past them three, we may be looking at at Jay Vine or Michael Bjerg, and maybe possibly a Bart Lemon. Other than these people, there are probably a lot more people who can compete, and this stage is open to a lot of surprises. But in my opinion, I'm expecting them to be a bit closer. In terms of this stage, I expect it to be Joshua Tarling in first place, followed by second place of Jay Vine, and third, Tadej Pogacar. Now it's time for another GC stage. This is Stage 3. This stage, of course, makes you really look at Tadej Pogacar. But there are also some other riders who could put their name in the hat. You can all, for example, Oscar Onley, or even, of course, Lennart van Eetvelt. In terms of listing people, there are way too many people to list. I mean, I thought the sprinters were hard to list. There's so many sprinters I had to cut a couple. And the climbers list is even bigger. In terms of the result for the stage, I believe it would be Tadej Pogacar winning the stage with Jay Vine and then Lennart van Eetvelt. Next up, let's talk about Stage 4. This is the second sprint stage, and will involve most of the same people that stage 1 involved. So let's just get straight through to my top 3. In first place, I believe that this stage will be Tim Merlier. Philipsen can't really get it all his own, won't really get his own on his own way. And in this kind of year, time of year, Tim Merlier and Olaf Kooij look unstoppable. Though I believe that this time Sam Welsford will be second, and third place will be Jasper Philipsen. Now it's time for stage 5. If I really think about stage 5, of course, it's another sprint stage. It's the third chance for our sprinters. This stage will lead on from the stage before it, and this could be a stage where Sam Welsford or Olaf Kooij finally get a victory in this year's tour. But when really looking at this, I feel like Philipsen, if he has lost to Merlier and Welsford, will feel a little bit more encouraged to fight it out for today's stage. This means that I feel he'll get a better position. Now, because of the previous result I had given, I actually believe Tim Merlier will do it once again. But only because I think he'll have now the confidence, knowing that he beat Philipsen, that he can do it again. And even with Philipsen being really angry and really ready to push it, I think he'll just come up short. And it also shows as he doesn't really have much of a lead out that he's used to. In terms of my third place, I'm going to have to go with Olaf Kooij. Now, stage 6. In my opinion, this is going to be the stage where all the sprinters will want to win. It's the final sprint stage and a final chance to show their early season form and their possibilities and chances at a Tour de France start. After the past 2 days, I think Philipsen will be even more fired up to win the stage. But with so many other sprinters, like, of course, Merlier, Welsford, and Kooij, as well as many others I'm not listing, it's going to be very tough. Now, I have just realised I haven't pointed out one rider that is one of the best sprinters at this moment in time. So, for this stage, after such a poor start to his season, I think that Jonathan Milan will get the perfect lead out he wants and then win the stage. Sadly, this would, of course, be, for me, a sad thing because I would love Olaf Kooij to win. But I think he'd just come second after also having one of his best lead-outs possible. In third place, I'm going to have to go with Jasper Philipsen. Now, finally, stage 7. This stage is once again going to be for the GC men. And of course, I cannot overlook Tadej Pogacar. If he is still in the race and has survived crashes, he is definitely your out-and-out favourite. But you cannot overlook as well Lennart van Eetvelt and maybe a couple of Finn Fisher Black. You've also got to think of many Tour de France riders who could put their name in the hat. This one is probably one of the hardest stages to predict, as many climbers will want to show their craft. In my opinion, Tadej Pogacar will once again show it after his team completely blitz the climb and destroy everyone behind them. But I think that there are certain climbers that will manage to survive this. Experienced climbers like Pello Bilbao, I believe, will be keeping up and will measure their efforts to to get the best result possible. So, in second place, I would have to go with Pello Bilbao. In terms of third place, looking around, there isn't many other people who are who are older and more mature. But that doesn't show that some youngsters could go for it. I'm looking at maybe a third place from Eetvelt, Ciccone, or maybe a Finn Fisher Black. I'm not really sure as it stands. Now it's time for our jerseys. Just a quick explainer of all these jerseys. First of all, we have the general time, which is in the Tour de France, your yellow jersey, your leader's jersey. That is, as you can see, red. In terms of our youth riders, they will be wearing a white jersey with black accents. This, of course, is labelled young. We also have a green jersey for the general points. This is points carried over both intermediate sprints and general and finishes. Then we have the black jersey, which is otherwise known as the stealth jersey. This jersey is specifically only for the intermediate sprints that are dotted along the courses of every single stage. Now, let's get into who I think will win each one. First of all, let's start off with the general points. In terms of the general points, I believe that this jersey will be won by Jasper Philipsen. Jasper Philipsen, from my predictions, has shown a lot of consistency. And also, due to his Tour de France pedigree, I believe he has that great enthusiasm and speed to beat everyone else. In terms of the intermediate sprint jersey, you would expect Philipsen to win it again, but I'm not really sure because it's really confusing because a lot of different people have won different jerseys. The intermediate sprint isn't always the same as the general points. And if I look at the general intermediate sprint, I believe again, even though what I've just said, it is still going to be Philipsen. I think Philipsen, of course, will look at the general points and think as a Tour de France general classification, which will mean that for every intermediate sprint, he will go for it and will not relinquish anything. Now, let's look at the youth jersey. In terms of the youth, it's going to be quite hard to pick because, of course, in terms of what I've said, we're looking at Elena van Eetvelt or a Finn Fisher Black. These guys will be... It's quite tough to pick between the two of them. And you also cannot forget the Brit Oscar Onley, who may have a chance of also being part of this fight. In terms of who's going to win it, I still think it's going to be Eetvelt, who, of course, will be a little bit higher, a little bit happier, because he knows he's won this before, and so will use that to his advantage. Now let's move on to the general classification, general time. This red jersey, and I think it's not much of a surprise, I think it's going to be dominated by Tadej Pogacar. I mean, there's nothing else really to say, and especially in terms of our predictions, with 2-stage victories and I think it was 3 podiums, a podium on every single GC stage. There is no way you can possibly stop him if he does do what I've predicted. In terms of second for this classification, I would probably say we'd be looking at Van Eetvelt, maybe Jay Vine, or even Peo Bilbao, if the gap is big enough between second and third on that final stage. Just before I go, let's just say that these predictions, especially the first ones I've made, may not be correct. And also, the first ones I made, I will probably change as the days go on and as the tour forms out. I will be posting those predictions on my, hopefully, on my community group, which of course you'll find on my YouTube homepage and everything. If you want to, of course, have a written version, or if you want to know the written version, of course, of what I predicted, just in case you forgot or couldn't hear anything, I will probably be putting it down in the description. But thank you for watching this video, and I hope you join us for the review and also watch the tour, which starts on Monday, which is, from when I'm recording this, tomorrow, and starts, from what I know, stage 1 about 10 o'clock. But thank you for listening, and see you next time.